Alright, some late evening talk. Look what I just found. I found a replay somehow in the save to watch later category where I just deleted like a bunch of replays and I don't even know how you get replays there. Cool feature. Glad to know that that's there here as well. And I just found the replay from 2017. Can you believe that? And look at the ranks. Look at some of the ranks. So all the people that have medals, obviously they still have played once the medals came out. And luckily in this replay I look really good already. Let's see. The other one I didn't delete. Oh, I played Storm as well. Is it the same game? What? So what I'm really interested to see is how people perform relative to me over the period of time. Oh, and look, there's an what is it? An ancient guy, and then we have Crusader, and then some people unranked. And if we look, for example, at the Crusader, we watch their profile, and we see, okay, they have like 4K matches. So they played a bunch of Dota in the time. And then this dude, 10,000 commands. I think I don't even have that many commands. And I feel like I'm a player that gets commanded regularly just because of the attitude. So he either has a bunch of games more, or he's like comparable at least. And still, like, you can see the difference in rank that you get. And then of course people that I guess stopped playing or didn't play rank anymore. And of course it's hard to tell. And in some games that I found where that like people are like rank 2000 already, and I'm still here at Immortal, and this always makes me feel competitive. Let's put it that way. I always feel a little bit competitive if I see people who have been with me at the same stage of the game, or like in the same time at the same level, and then they outperform me. And that was actually one of the factors at one point at least that really motivated me, because there were a couple dudes that improved kind of at my speed. Let's see if I can find them. Like most of the people, I don't even know them anymore. I feel like I think I have to clean this out. But this guy for example, I at one point I think he was Divine 4 or Divine 5 with me, and it was always like a match. Okay, who can reach Immortal first? Like who can get the stars? Who can get it a little bit faster than the other one? And so we kind of fueled each other, and yeah, we just played competitive, like in the minds of the people there. And this guy as well, I remember him. We kind of reached Immortal together, and then slowly you find people that kind of encourage you to keep on going, just because you add them, and then you track their record and their matches, and you're like, come on, look, he won just a couple games again. And of course, there are like people like my coach, where it's like, what the fuck is even happening? Like rank 500. I just can't compete with that. Like sometimes he just decides to play Dota 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And he's like still queuing up. Holy shit. Like this is something, of course, that I don't even feel mad if people like that outperform me, because he has just days where he wakes up and he decides Dota. That's like what he's gonna do. And I'm a little bit envy, I have to say. I wish I had like 5 more years to just play Dota. Maybe 5 years is an over-exaggeration. But at least 5 months. Like imagine the amount of impact I could have on my gameplay if I would just play 6 games a day consistently and then structure my day around it. Like you wake up at a reasonable time and you had 8 or more hours of sleep, and then you eat something. Like you eat protein or whatever, like something hot in the morning as well, like a really beefy breakfast. And then you go to the gym, and then you come back, you relax a little bit, and then you play your first game of Dota. And I mean, of course, you're gonna be like godlike immediately, like by default, right? So yeah, Dota is a really fun game, and this competition part of like improving and getting forward always kept me really interested. And then like I just have such a feel of nostalgia in the game. I feel like if I look back at the heroes, for example, if you look at my hero pool, which is really a weird hero pool, I played a bunch of Troll Ranger, I played some Snipe on the mid lane, and then I played Anti-Mage, PA, and PL. And those were like at the carry times where I played a bunch of those. And then at some point, like, it sneaks Viper in. And Viper, look at the win rate. It's horrible. Like, why did I even do that? But some games were just winnable by picking the hero. Literally, you picked it back when it still had the Aghanims, where, like, the ulti goes really far and has, like, more damage and shit. And then you won. But it was difficult to realize which games were that. And then I kind of got baited into picking it for, like, a free win, quote unquote. And then I just got shit on it. And so many games were like that. Or right now, I try to play some sniper again. And if you look at my sniper, I always feel like, this was close. Maybe I could have done better. And then you look at the stats, and you're like, what the fuck? Stop playing that hero. It's so ridiculous to get trapped in that. And to just look at it. And actually, the Battle Pass report, I think, shows a little bit of that. Like, you can get better statistics of yourself and what heroes are good. And I know there are sites for that. But I was never, like, too much tuned into that. And then I had a phase where I tried to learn Tinker, because I'm like, well, Tinker is OP in like every single patch, so I should maybe learn him and like solo carry some games. But then I'm like, dude, like it's kind of weird, and like figuring out the hotkeys and everything, it's just weird. I'd rather play Invoker. And then yeah, I just decided to play Invoker. That's what I've been doing. Holy shit. And then I played a bunch of Invoker and some support in between. This is how it looks like basically for me. Necrophos, practice matches. And as you can see, like, this is really spread out. Like, there are not a ton of games in that. And I feel like I'm still improving. Like, if you look at this half a year ago, I was at 5k. So you can still improve, even though it's a little bit slow, if you do it consistently. And so again, it depends on what you want to do with the game. What I just don't feel is that people play the same amount of time and really get nowhere. Like, where can I find this again? Like, if you go to the replays, like if this guy keeps playing and playing, and we have like similar time or half the time, and he doesn't get anywhere, then it kind of tells me, okay, it's not you, or like in a weird sense, it's not you, because I want to identify with the part of you that is noble and striving forward. But I also recognize that some people I've coached, they are mentally so in trouble, or like they have such a tough time that Dota is like their escape, and then they completely overcommit. And I've met people with like 12,000, 13,000 and more hours who are still at like Crusader or Archon, simply because of the way they approach Dota. For them, it's like, I'm just gonna queue and try every single shit that is possible in the game, and then, like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're like, well, I realize my teammates are gonna, like, keep me down anyways, and it's such a difficult time to play the game, and I can't control it, and I don't have any impact in the game anyways. No matter what I do, it's never good enough, and the reason why I'm not winning is because Gaben personally, I don't know, detects my account and tries to manipulate me. Stories like that, I've heard it, and I've seen how that translates into personal life, I think. And more often you see it outside of Dota, I think, because there it's more common, even though it's not as clearly shown. Like, if you have a ranked system, you can immediately tell, okay, if you have somebody who took a lot of time in it and who tries to be dedicated and is still at the lower ranks, then there's something fundamentally wrong with this. It's not because his IQ is too low to, like, get to the divine bracket or to the mortal bracket. It's not that, like, his, I don't know, setup is too bad. It's just a mental thing. And so I'm studying in Tübingen right now, and what I see are many people that are really entitled. Like, in Germany, we study for free. So this is the first thing you have to understand. Like, if you're coming from America or some places, we study for free, basically. Like, we have such a small fee that's like, it's unbelievable. It's like, basically nothing. So we study there for free, and we can go there, and we can get the education we want. And then there are even systems to help you during those study times. And depending on what criteria fulfill, you can apply to a system like that. And then you get help to get through the rough times of studying while you don't earn money. So you don't pay anything and you get paid for studying, which makes some sense, even though it sounds ridiculous, because you want to invest into your like future generation, which is a great thing to do, I think, but debatable on which degree. I didn't want to go in all of this politics, whatever, but there are some people, what's my point, that are so selfish and they're like entitled. They're like going to this, well, I deserve everything. If this is not to my standard, if this is not to my liking, then I switch the professor and I switch the university and I do this and this and this. And I'm really entitled to get everything I want. And this strikes me as very ignorant and naive and almost, I don't know, it's just so foreign to me that will happen. Like, I met one lady and she told me, well, I failed this course like 4 times, but that's always because the professor just doesn't understand me and people don't like me personally, and that's why I'm not passing, and it's such a tough time for me, and right now I'm in a difficult situation. And I'm like, I agree with you, like, your life is probably tough, and it's probably tougher than mine. So I'm not naive, or I'm not trying to be cynical about this. But I'm trying to look at this, and especially in the position of a coach with some people, like give me the honor to be, I try to help you and I try to help myself. And what I really love about doing this is by helping people, I find out what works and what doesn't work, and then I can apply it for myself to get out of the misery where I am at. And like for everybody, this is a different place. But if you confront a person with this, that is entitled like that, like the lady from the university, for example, then she's just like, oh, how dare you say this? You just don't understand the struggle I've been through, and my life is so difficult. And like they push this narrative of being a victim of their circumstances. And there's a great quote from Carl Jung, who is a psychologist, and he said, I'm not sure if I can translate this correctly, but there's a nice English quote, but let's try to translate it from my mind. So, if you don't bring the things that are unconscious in you into consciousness, then they will dictate your life, and you will call them fate. And this fate that can't be broken, that is like part of the system and the engineering that keeps you down and keeps you under the water, this is only a reflection of things you haven't realized about yourself. Like, this is an indicator. If you have the feeling, I am doomed to do this or that, or my life is destined to go this way, then this is an indicator to show you, well, in this area, I haven't thought about something. In this area, I didn't realize something that is so deeply a part of me that it dictates my life in every single move. And like the way to say this casually is, if everywhere you go, it stinks like dog shit, it's probably on your own shoe. Like, you should check your own shoe. And the meaning of this is, hey, you can turn to yourself to find what the difficulties are that you have. And at the beginning, I think this sounds really difficult, or this sounds really hard. And for me, this was like a breakdown, or when I was younger and I realized the first time the reason why I'm suffering is myself and I can't blame other people, then this is like the biggest burden that could be ever put on you. But with this comes the possibility of freedom, because then you can say, aha, I am in charge and I can actually change something about this. If it would be the system, other people, faith, the gods, whatever you call it, then all I could be doing as a coach is say, poor you, I'm so sorry, but you're stuck forever. There's nothing we can possibly do. And this is how many people feel. And this is, I think, I mean, even myself, I catch myself in that situation. Not in Dota anymore, because I think like with the level I am at, I know that if I want to get better, I could do it. You just have to play more Dota. Like, you have to invest this and this and this and that to get it. So I see the way to go there. I'm just not willing to go it. Like, I'm studying, I'm doing some music, I'm doing other things that I want to do. But if I wanted to go there, if I really wanted that, I could go there. And how high, nobody knows. Like, where's the limit to that? But if you have the feeling that there's nothing you can do, then there's something twisted in yourself that's stopping you from doing this. And Dota shows this very clearly, because I had a student, and let me check out like the medals again. I think he was like 2K, and I would have to check what 2K is. Is it like Crusader? Somewhere in Crusader, I think. And he said even Ana couldn't have won that game. Like, he played carry, and he said even Ana couldn't have won this game. And this was the most ignorant statement I could have ever heard out of somebody, because that was back in the time where Ana was smurfing at like immortal level, I don't know, 1,000 or something like that. And he stomped every single game, which looked like impossible. The team was feeding like everything, and this guy was just 30 kills and 1 death, and solo carried the game. And the thought that even Ana, like, maybe if you say No Tail couldn't win this game, then I would be like, I would still be skeptical. I would say there's like, if you put No Tail in 2K MMR, he's gonna be out of there like in no time, of course. But Ana is like, at this time, he was like the personification of the guy that smurfs low-ranked games, low-ranked, like only immortal shit, and smurfs them and completely destroys them. And so the idea that this guy wouldn't be able to win a 2K game, it's just so ridiculous. And it shows you that the person actually had, like, he's not trying to be cynical. He actually believes that. Like, he's actually, oh, there's nothing that could have been done from my part. And this giving away of responsibility of the impact of your life actually is, I think, what makes people really, really depressed, and what puts them in a cycle that just leads them down and down and down. And I think the way you break that is by randomly changing things at the beginning. Like, you pay attention to what you do, and then you see it doesn't work. And then you randomly change things, and you see if it's the same, worse, or better. If it's the same, you change something else. If it's worse, you leave it as it was, and if it's better, you keep continuing in this direction. But what this needs, what this really precedes, is a mindset that enables you to observe, like to observe yourself. And I think the easiest way to get to this understanding is by observing others first, because you can realize the mistakes in others really quickly, and the own mistakes are difficult to catch. Like, this would be like a Buddhist idea or whatever, where you say, well, you can't feel the tip of your finger with the tip of your finger, or you can't look yourself directly in the eye without a mirror, or you can't like bite your own teeth, or what other examples are there? You can't taste like your own tongue. Like, it doesn't work. So look at other people first, and then try to make references of what they are doing. And this is a skill that once learned, you can apply it in every single area of expertise. And I think this is why I really, really recommend people. I have a way younger brother, and I tell him, play something with a ranked system that's actually decent. And the reason being is that you learn something, you learn a skill that translates to everything else you do. If you get really good in one thing, then the skills you learned to take that is actually what brings you to excellence in another area. This is probably going longer, but I don't care at all. I'm actually gonna, let's see. Let's hit some people on the stream as well. So the possibility to learn translates to different areas of life. And I realized that, like, I'm very fortunate to teach some very basic piano to somebody as well. I've been playing piano since I was, I don't know, 6. And I enjoyed it. Once I was like 12 or 13, then I started to enjoy it and to do some stuff with it. And now a family asked me to actually play. Like, they asked me, hey, can you play a little bit? And then we can check, like, I have a young child, and can you teach that child piano? And then another family asked, and it kind of went on a little bit. And what I realized is that they are not taught that their mind has no limits, which is really weird. in many perspectives, like the sentence alone is weird. Like you would say, of course the mind has limits. This is the natural reaction. Like of course the mind has limits. But it's like, where? Like, I personally, I just struggle as soon as you put it on something where you say, this is the limit, then I'm like, really? Is that the limit? Like, is this actually the limit? Is this impossible to do? And then you think about all the impossible things that humans did already, and then you realize, okay, where exactly is the limit? And I mean, obviously there's some limit, otherwise you would be like God or something. And I can assure you that at least I am not God. So that's all right with me. But I think we take those limits way too constrained. Like we see ourselves and we see our failure, and then we just project those limits outwards. And the difficulty is if you have people that are raised in that narrative and then they get out into the open world. And the open world actually doesn't care about you that much. Like, I'm a big fan of more of a stoic worldview, where there's like an underlying system of reality. And I personally would call it God. But things work how things work. Like a fire is hot. And if you come too close to a fire, you burn yourself. But if you just keep the right distance of the fire, then what you actually get is something that empowers you, something that keeps you warm, something that can be a tool for you. So the difficulty is not to control the thing, which is impossible because it has its own nature. Like reality has its own nature. The fire, a stone, trees, people have their own nature. Don't try to control them, but you can figure out how they work, or you can learn to understand them better and better, and then you can use it to your own benefit. And even greater than that, like it's not just a narcissistic worldview, but you can use it for the benefit of like a group identity. Like you can use it for many people and have the benefit, for example, for your family, for your friends, or whatever. So you can extend the benefit that you reap out of understanding of the nature of reality. You can use that and leverage it for many people to come. So the key is not to change the substance. The key is to change your attitude that you use to look on the world. And the fire is actually completely unemotional towards you. Like it doesn't care if you get burned or if you don't get burned. It just does what fire does. And so is Dota as well. Like Dota, if you want to approach a Dota game, from my perspective, you queue into a game and then you have to have the mindset that Dota is just going to do what Dota is going to do. And what that means is that you don't influence the nature of the reality of these things. Like if you see, for example, different heroes, like we can make it very concrete. If you see heroes, like you see a Juggernaut, you see a Zeus, and you see a Centaur, then you can look at them and you say, well, what do those heroes do? And I can't change what they do, but I can adjust to what they do. So I'm not going to do the same thing every single time because I'm not confronted with the same reality every single time. And if I expect that my same set of rules applies to every single game, then I'm completely naive. Like the thought process would be something like, I understand reality to a fixed degree. Like I understand reality enough so that I don't have to be changeable at all. I can be as I am, and reality should be changing towards me. Like this egocentric view where you like shake your fist on God and where you say, how dare you, God? How dare you, reality, to ruin my life? This is like, this viewpoint, even though you can hold it, this is the beauty of it, I think. You can perfectly hold that. And you can be like, the world is so unfair and unjust and whatever. And it's reasonable, actually, because people do suffer. And sometimes it seems unreasonable completely. Like, maybe you queue into a game. We can make it, again, this is why I love Dota. We can make it so concrete. Let's say you queue into a game and you have a teammate who feeds. Of course, it sucks. And there's like nothing you can do about it from that perspective. Like, you can't change the nature of the guy on the other screen and tell him to not feed. Like, you can try to influence him in many ways. But in the end, he makes his own decisions. You have all the right to shake your fist at God, at the greatest, highest good, and say, how dare you to treat me like that? You have all the right to do that. But it's not going to change anything. Like, it's not going to bring any positive benefits into your life. But if you just swallow your pride, which might be one of the hardest things to do in this world, but if you manage to do that, and then you have an attitude of an adventure, where you step out into the unknown and you find the things that are valuable for you and you fight them, like you keep at them and you don't let go. Then you can retrieve something that is actually of value for you and for the people around you, which makes you the one who gets progress. Like, in my mind, the belief that there is an underlying structure and that you can align with this structure is the only way to move forward. So, look how radical my viewpoint is here. My viewpoint is like this. Everybody who plays Dota has an intrinsic hierarchy of values because you want to strive towards the greatest good. This is like a Peterson idea, or it's way older than him, of course. But everybody strives to the greatest good. And this might be a better understanding of the game. This might be trying to copy the people who are at the top of the pyramid already. And you can only do that if you analyze the different pyramids that are in this, because there's like one in stacking camps, there's one in farming creeps, there is one in whatever, there's so many different types, in communication, in team play, in working with each other, so many different things. And I say, if you abstract all the positive entities, all the positive tops of the hierarchy, you ultimately come to a perfect, or to the thing that describes reality the most. And that thing has to be maxed out in every single aspect. Because if you have something that holds all reality in it, then it has to be like omniscient and all-knowing. And like as soon as you put this structure, as soon as you abstract things, they combine into one new thing. And that thing, I think, is what Christians, for example, call God, or like the Jews, or in the Western world, we basically live here, and all we think about and all the moral values and all the things we have, they just come from exactly that. And all of our mindset of improving and striving forward, and the thought that we could give up the present to gain something in the future, like that we can bargain with the future, those are all intrinsically theistic thoughts. Because if you have a universe that is merely random, then you cannot predict it. Like it would only be luck to predict a complete random universe that is not governed by underlying rules. And you can say, well, those underlying rules are just physics or whatever. But I mean, I don't need to define like this greatest thing that we are striving towards, but whatever that is, I would call it God. And you can simplify it, and you can say, well, my God is only like physical laws and wherever they come from or whatever, and like you can stop like relatively early and keep it based and simple, if that helps you, whatever. But I think deeply that most people, maybe all people who play Dota, they have something in them that looks for this greatness and sees the beauty in excellence. And if you have that, I think this is a spark of divinity. This is something that tells you, okay, there are things going on, and there are things that are meant to be seen and meant to be done, and there's value in this actually. And then something simple as playing a video game, to me, becomes something more significant. It becomes moving forwards in a hierarchy of values towards the greatest possible goal. And suddenly you have something deeply, deeply valuable. And I think this is especially clear in Dota. Like if you work at McDonald's, you have the same thing, but it's not as easy. Like you can be a better employee, but it's not easy. Like what does it mean? You're quicker, you're more friendly. Like where are the limits, and how do you actually get feedback? So it's difficult to obtain that. But I feel like in Dota specifically, we have that. We have the feedback that what we do is either positive or negatively influencing us into the way of the hierarchy. And so we instantly have a value landscape. And yeah, I think that's why Dota is one of those things that actually show beauty like that. And there's a great thing about beauty, like a thought that I discovered basically. I think what is also true is that you can ask yourself questions. Like you can just sit still and ask yourself questions. And then you're gonna give yourself the answers. And what happens in my mind is that sometimes if I'm really honest with myself and I ask deep questions, then I have a personification of somebody popping in my mind. And then I meet that person and I can tell them, what the fuck do you do here? Like, what do you do in my mind? And then they tell me. And this is the weirdest feeling. And it's like really, like, this is a frightening thing. That's not something I'm doing all the time. This is like so weird. It freaks me out. But I think it just is. It's a way to the subconscious where you have the ability to get into touch with whatever understands reality in a more connected way, maybe, than your big brain does. Like your capacity to calculate numbers and to look at things voluntarily is so limited. The most of the things you do are uncontrolled anyways. What I was about to say is that there's an element of excellence that has a profound impact on people, even if the person who strives for excellence is a morally indecent person. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have a city. You have a really big city, and it's completely overfilled with people. Like, it's a really ugly city, and people have littered everywhere and wasted things, and there's smoke in the air and everything. And one person decides. One person just stands up one day and decides, well, I don't have a beautiful building, but I have a little bit of land in this area. There was an old building and it broke down a long time ago, and now I have a little bit of land. And this land I'm going to use actually to build a garden. And in this garden, I'm going to invite everybody to come and to walk through the garden. And then they can see the garden, they can look at it, they can enjoy the flowers that I planted, they can enjoy like the green nature of things, and they can get out of their trist city, which is like boring and broken down and all gray and black and dim and ugly. So he decides to build a garden. And then he develops skills to build a garden, because like you're not born being the perfect gardener. And step by step, the garden increases in beauty, and people come and they join and they admire the work that he does. And somehow the nature reminds them of the beauty that should be around the city. Like, it reminds them of something that has always been hovering around the air and that could have been everywhere, but just wasn't actualized yet. And then they see this nature for the first time, and maybe a little child that has been growing up in the smog and like horrible city sees the first time red roses, and they bloom and they go up, and it's just in awe of like the beauty that is in there, and is inspired to reproduce the beauty in every way possible. And now in this thought experiment, we can say that the gardener is doing a great job. Like, he must be a good person because he's like inspiring other people to do great things, and this is like an incredible thing, and why isn't everybody like that? And then we realize the gardener actually is one of the, I don't know, be like in a cliche, like the pigs that feed into the capitalism, and he divorced his wife and whatever, throw everything in there. Like, he's a horrible human being, basically. Like, there are so many flawed mistakes about him that it's just unbelievable. Like, he's one of the reasons why the world actually might break down, and the only thing he got right was to build this garden. And then you could say, well, does this person actually diminish something of the experience of the people that walk in the garden? And well, maybe to some degree, but still the overwhelming thing is the experience that you give. And for me personally, what that meant is, what I discovered is that feeling that I've never been told that if you strive for excellence in anything, then the positive impact that you can have on people transcends the misery and the failure that you self put out. So this was just mind-blowing to me. This was like, because I'm always in the fear of like, well, if I'm not a good person here and there, then people dislike me, and they're gonna dislike what I have said in the past or what I will say in the future just because of who I am. But this actually might not be the case, because if your excellence is great enough, then people get inspired to do something. People get inspired to move forward, to move out of where they are right now, and they get called into the adventure. Like, this is every basic story that you have. This is like Harry Potter, or this is Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, of course. Like the call, like the mage comes into the village which seems so neat and cleaned up, but underneath there is like this rotten family structure, and the hobbits actually don't like each other. And then they're called out. Like, they're called out to go into the adventure. And they're called out by the possibilities that are out there. And if you can be one part to manifest possibility and like stop having the possibility of being everything, but be nothing then instead, and then to actualize the possibility that you have in some specific way. And while doing this, while actualizing something, you're sacrificing everything else. Like, if you're really good at something, you're not good in anything else. This is like the nature of being good at something. But this excellency actually inspires people to do something. And again, we can break it down for Dota, because I always felt like it works. If you have people that are really, really good at Dota, like you see the top tier players, and you see what they're doing, it's just fascinating. Like, you can't take your eyes away. Like, you see the TI and you see the match and you're on your feet, because people are like, what, clicking something? Like, it's even difficult to explain. Even if you have just like football or something, or soccer, whatever you call it. Like, I'm not a fan of that. But you see people on the edge because they kick a ball from the left to the right. And you would say, how can we explain that behavior? And I would say it's precisely because this excellence that is displayed calls out for adventure. Like, you immediately take a position. If you see excellency, you want to participate in that. And it actually makes you forget time. There's such a crazy thing about Dota. Think about this. Like, the last time you played Dota, you probably didn't look at the time, unless you were checking Roche timings or stacks or whatever, but you probably didn't think, well, this match went on for so long, another 5 minutes passed, how boring, I wish I could just quit. There are games like that, I know. But in general, like, we don't queue up games and then regret ever existing. So the threat of existence and the threat of death itself gets suppressed, and not only suppressed, I think really diminished by doing activities that move us forward on our hierarchy of goals. So Dota and other things that fascinate you, it's just Dota for me personally. I really enjoy Dota. Like, I know many people who play Dota, they don't actually enjoy it. And I'm like, do something else. Go, I don't know, play the flute, or I don't know, do something. But for me, it's Dota, it's music, it's in many things. That you forget time. You forget that you're mortal for just a moment. And you're in the zone. You get completely captured by the activity you're doing. And it's... Wasn't there a puck line? What was it? I'm strangely drawn to this strange... I don't know exactly the line. Somebody get the line for me, the puck line. But it says the same thing. Like, this strange activity kind of takes all of your attention in, and it allows you to forget the troubles of time for a second. And the power that is within that, for me, it just reflects a divine beauty. Like, it reflects something that is so much greater than just a mere pressing on pixels. Or it's like if you lose yourself in music. And I think especially the older generations, they can understand it with music, because this is what they've been growing up if they were in a musical family. And what they did to lose themselves was music, or like board games, or sports, or something like this. And you lose yourself in there. You dissolve, and you get a part of that. Like, you put your focus outside of yourself, and that actually enables you to be part of the world more so than if you just focus on your own ego. And my parents, for example, they will never understand it in Dota. Like, they will never understand it in computer games at all. But they understand it in music very well. And since I play music as well, I can feel where they like correspond. Once I play Bach on the piano, I don't think, oh, what's the next phrase? Or, this is boring. Why can't I do something else? I just want to play it again. Like, I have this urge of participating in this pattern and structure and dance of reality, and just be a part of the swinging nature of reality, if this makes sense. It probably doesn't, but maybe you get something out of it, because this is helpful for me just to talk for like 40 minutes. What the fuck? Well, I could have played one round Dota in this, so I think it's a good trade. One round for talking a little bit. This is fine, I think. The beauty of things like that, the beauty of Dota, lies so much deeper than just a waste of time or just something that you have to make excuses for. If you find yourself in a healthy relationship with something you enjoy that much, then there is no harm in it, in my opinion. And I think improvement comes with that. I think improvement comes with that attitude. So to like get all the way back to the circle. If you want to improve in something, you want to lose yourself into it. You don't want to think, my impact is this and that. My fate has been written already. I can't do anything. Like people who are depressed, they use words like me and I more often. And this self-centric view of I should be the center of reality, but it doesn't conform to what I want it to be, is actually what stops people to move forward. You have to sacrifice yourself. Like you have to burn things off of you that are impurities. And this is always an hurtful process. But the pain that comes out of this will always be healed. Holy shit, it makes sense. It always will be healed by the phoenix. By the tear of the phoenix, it will be healed. And I'm quoting like Harry Potter here. If you know the scene where like Harry Potter gets stung from the basilisk or whatever, from the tooth of the basilisk, and then a phoenix comes flying in, and the tear of the phoenix actually heals him. And the phoenix represents rebirth. Like you burn yourself up, and out of the ashes something new arises. And if you invoke that spirit, if you get this spirit to be almost touchable in the air, then the tears that come out of that are actually the healing factor to sustain you against the poisons of evil, against the things, against the demons that try to lure you down into the abyss of hell. Something like that. Something like that. This is fun. This is a lot of fun. And I think, I really think that's true. I think you can't, like those terms, maybe not my specific terms, but those words and terms, how else can you describe this? Like, how else can you reach that deep? You have to flee to the mystical and to the magical to even comprehend what's going on. Because every time you try to give it another name, like every time you say, well, those are just synapses in your brain and neurons firing away, and like they're doing things with you, and you can explain it physically, like you can explain what happens to an immense detail. But then it's always specific to one particular situation. And if I give you a story, like if I give you a really good story, then wherever you are, you can draw parallels to it. And you can say, well, I'm here right now. I'm at this part of the story right now. And I don't think we will ever have a biological or technical or philosophical or logical, even I'm a huge fan of the use cases of that. I don't think we will ever have a framework that lets us understand and resonate. Maybe this is even more important. That lets us understand it and that resonates so deeply with us, like a story could. If you have a good story, then I always will be in tears. Like there are some stories that are so incredibly good that they just reflect every inch of my being to such a degree that I can't other than just cry and admire the beauty and the hurt and yet the resurrection that is within it. And yeah, I think too little people actually try to develop that taste for the infinite. Like, this is a skill you can learn. Like, you can participate in that worldview for free. And basically all it costs are the things that are holding you back anyways. And if you sacrifice them, if you do the right sacrifice, then you will thrive in whatever you do. I really believe that. But it's a choice. It's always a choice. And maybe to close this a little bit here. Some people just want to play Dota for... I don't know what else. Like, you could say for fun. And they stay, like, really low MMR, even they play 12,000 hours. Is that fun what you're seeking? Or is it the thrill of you getting the feedback of, yes, the world is really unjust. And this is another point that proves it to me. Maybe that's more what you have going. And like in this circle of death, you're gonna find yourself a place where you don't want to be, man. Or maybe you actually do want to be there. And that's like where evil really strikes in. Like people who think, nope, I would rather have that. I see what could change my life, but I'm just not getting myself to change it. I have enough of those elements in my life, right? So what can I say? But maybe we can work on the things we can fix. And I think Dota is one of the things we can. There are some other demons inside of us. Some other habits and things and energies that are more difficult to get a handle on. Because they require an understanding that is too hurtful to obtain. Which is fine for the moment, maybe. But let's see where this goes. Let's end it on a positive note, though. I'm gonna be interested. A couple of people will watch this, and maybe they think I'm completely crazy, and they would be right to think so. Maybe. I would love to see some feedback. And I hope I can spread some of that, because as you see, like, I'm not excellent enough in doing what I do to be spreading light just by excellency. Like, if you just want to watch people who are good at Dota, there are 5,000, 6,000 people that are better. And why watch me then? And it's perfectly reasonable. And I'm not even looking for a big audience. I just think my perspective on things has value in it. And maybe it has value for one person. I think if I would meet my younger self, it would have value for him. Even if I didn't understand it back then. And the next great thing is that I can actually record this, and then in 5 years I can look back at it and I can say, what a bullshit. Like, how do you even come up with this? Like, where were you thinking? Like, go back to study and get your shit together. And maybe I can rewatch it and then understand some things about myself that I couldn't articulate before. So this is a great journey of self-understanding for me personally. And I'm having fun. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm present. I'm alive. Just today, I went back to university. It's like the first day after the holidays. And it was kind of cold and rainy. And I was like, yes, I want it to be cold. I want it to be warm. I want it to be rainy, and I want it to be like sunny or whatever. Like, I just want it to be. I want to be part of it. I want to be disgusted by some people. I want to be amazed by people. I want to be like caught on the wrong foot from the professor, and I want to be praised. I want everything. I just want to be. And I think this is the most amazing place in life where you can be. Where you just feel open for everything and thankful for the things that come across you. And in this state, I feel I could do everything. And I just need a reason to do something. Give me a reason to do something, and I can do everything. With that, see you later again.